There's so many legends in this building today.
Legendary.
Hi, welcome to Legendary. Again, I'm Kevin Jonas Sr., and I am thrilled this week to have as our guest one of our artists with the Jonas Group, Levi Hummon.
What's going on? Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
Oh man, it is exciting to have you here because you have so much going on.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are new to Legendary, we interview legends in the business. Some of those legends have been around a very long time. One I hope to interview actually is very close to Levi. People that have done a great thing in the business. They've been around a long time. They've won the accolades. They have the Hall of Fame status from the business side to the microphone. But also people that are experiencing legendary moments. And that could be something viral. It could be something that they're experiencing that breaks them out, good or bad. And so we're going to be talking with somebody that is located here in Nashville, Tennessee. Levi, thank you for being part of it, man.
Of course, yeah. Born and raised in Nashville. We call us unicorns if you're born and raised here.
It is rare to find somebody here that was born and raised.
Yes, it is. Every single Uber driver you ever meet is like, you're actually from here. That's amazing. I'm assuming the person you're referring to is my dad.
Yes.
My dad is Marcus Hummon. He wrote songs like Bless the Broken Road, Cowboy Take Me Away, Born to Fly, so many amazing country hits. So I grew up in the business.
Well, let me stop you.
Yeah.
I was not kidding when I said Hall of Fame. Your dad is...
No, he's actually in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's in the Songwriter Hall of Fame and one of the most sought-after writers in the history of country music.
He's amazing. And you know, I grew up in the business, and we're actually only like a mile from my house sitting here at the Recording Academy. So I grew up in this town, and my dad is definitely one of the biggest influences on my life, and I feel like you can relate to that because I feel like you have a connection with some of your sons.
Yeah, there's some music artists out there that I'm pretty connected to, and I understand, although I'm not in the Hall of Fame, later in their life they may be in the Hall of Fame, but yeah, I can relate to the connection in the industry and some of the ups and downs that go with that. So you and I have started doing some work together and very excited about that.
Yes.
But as it relates to your history, I want to know a lot because, you know, we live in this current trend of Nepo baby.
Right. Little nepotiz.
Yeah, exactly. But hard work goes into it.
Yeah.
And you are one of the hardest working people. But I would love to know your history because you did grow up in Nashville with a guy that is very well known and a mother as well that is very well known.
Yeah.
And so give us a picture into your background. What was it like for you growing up in Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, my mom's a preacher here in Nashville, and she started an organization called Thistle Farms. It's THISTLE. And it's incredible. It helps women with a history of drug abuse and prostitution get off the streets. They get clean and sober, and then they employ them to make healing oils, bath and body care products, candles, all this amazing stuff. So that is my mother. But with my father, you know, he's a songwriter. And so I grew up in the creative circle of Nashville. But growing up, you know, music was a hobby for me. I was never the kid that was like grabbing a guitar and then just trying to pursue it immediately. It was just like, I grabbed a guitar because it just felt like second nature.
Right.
But I was always inspired by my family to be creative. And that was like a huge part of what me and my brothers did growing up. We should have started a band. I knew it.
Right.
We should have
You
started
could have been the country version
we should have been it because we all look kind of similar. No, we grew up all playing instruments and stuff, but it took until I was about 22 for me to start actually pursuing music.
I've started sharing with some people that we work with you, and it's amazing how many of them go, "Oh, we know Levi." Like, Levi used to crawl around on the fountain outside and would be in with his dad, and he'd be running up and down the hallways. And
that it's a blessing and a curse, honestly, because I feel like I've grown up in Nashville literally my entire life. So everybody's perspective of me is from a baby until middle 20s, and they don't really sometimes know that I'm like a man now and I've grown up. Like, I have to remind them, I'm like, yo, I'm not 12 anymore.
Right.
Like, come on.
Well, people get locked. They really do get locked in an age.
Yeah. Try being 24 and like signing your first record deal and being locked in that age for people's minds.
Wow.
But no, it's been part of like growing up in this business has been escaping my dad's shadow and also just being myself and kind of figuring out what is my lane and who am I as an artist. And that exists by collaborating with my dad and everything, but also collaborating with other people throughout the community and kind of identifying, finding what my identity is.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's a real journey.
Definitely.
So let's go back for a second to you had this hobby, but you mentioned that you signed a record deal.
Yeah.
So hobby to record deal is quite a leap. So what happened that led you to your first record deal?
Yeah. Well, I was in college in Florida, and I loved writing songs, but it was like a hobby. And I started loving writing songs so much that I would send them back to my dad in Nashville, and I said, what do I do with this? I don't know. I love it, but I don't know what to do. He's like, you're from Nashville. You're writing songs. I'm here. Come back to Nashville. So I came back to Nashville. I transferred to Belmont, and then I got my first ever publishing deal and dropped out of college. And then it got real.
How old were you?
I was 21.
21. So you were at school in Florida.
At school in Florida, transferred back to Nashville to pursue songwriting at Belmont. Got my first publishing
Belmont
deal.
University is an amazing university right in the heart of like Music Row.
It's right there.
Right beside us here at the Recording Academy. And, you know, I've had tons of people I know there, tons of graduates that I've worked with. My son Frankie was there for a while.
Wow.
So we know Belmont, and the people that come out of it lead the industry here.
Yeah.
So it's an important piece of just the culture. In fact, a lot of the interns flood down Music Row and all the music companies. So it's a connected place.
I feel like every single person I've worked with has some connection to Belmont in the music business. Yeah. But no, I went to Belmont. I got my first ever publishing deal with Desmond Child. He wrote like "Living on a Prayer," "Dude Looks Like a Lady," "Living the Vida Loca," all those amazing songs.
Yeah.
And
one of the great legends.
Yes, and he took me under his wing and kind of taught me how to write songs in a different way than my dad did growing up. And about months, maybe weeks after that publishing deal got signed, I got picked up by Big Machine Records here in town. And part of my journey of that relationship...
Big Machine, well known for
Taylor Swift and a few other people.
Yeah, a few other people, yeah.
Florida Georgia Line, Thomas Rhett. I had a really great experience there, but I wasn't in a place yet in my own artistry where I was ready to do it, honestly.
Right.
I walked into that label deal with one song demoed. And I had never done anything else, and people just were like, "We know you're talented, we trust you," and like your dad and everything like that. So when I left that label about a year and a half later, I was like 23, and I had to figure out if I still wanted to do it. I was like, "Do I want to do this?" And how I decided to do that was releasing music independently.
A lot of people end up there.
And the independent artists back then, like the word on the street was just like, "That's no, you, why?" And I believed it was possible, and I thought that, like if I believe in myself enough, and there's these new platforms like Spotify and new platforms like SiriusXM and all these places to release music, I was like, there's a avenue for me.
Why do you think that people said ooh no about independent? What do you think was in the culture and in the water that caused people to think that? I
think like in pop, that was already changing. So there was artists like Macklemore and, oh my gosh, he has a 3 on his hat. Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
And that was already happening. Like independent artists
were doing a great job having an independent life and using labels for the functions they excel at when it was ready. Right.
And so I kind of saw that, and I was like, it is possible. Like these artists are doing stuff on Spotify and these digital streaming partners that are different. And I kind of based like my idea behind that. But I think that Nashville, and to this day, and I love Nashville, it's my hometown, everything, it's so set in its ways. It doesn't want to change. And that's just part of like the beauty of it, but also kind of like that's why it takes 3 years for something that's happened in LA sometimes to happen here.
Right. As a pastor, I came to a conclusion at one point that the church is typically 10 years behind in regard to technology.
Yeah.
So if Nashville is 3 years behind, that's better than a lot of church circles where they're still using floppy disk.
I feel like my mom and like their church like accelerated in their technology skills when COVID happened.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we got to get out to the people, and that like it forced a lot of people to move forward.
It did, and an independent mindset. So you're independent.
Yeah.
How? Because where we are now is not where you are then. Right. You start putting music out. You start collecting a new set of partners, and currently you're on fire. But that like I'm gonna pick myself up, because for those of you that live this life, it's not uncommon for a person to be dropped, to ask to leave a label, to
Be
not
disgruntled.
find common ground, to be disgruntled, to be unhappy, and some bounce from label to label, understanding in their best form labels are important, and others, myself, I never signed a record deal. I traveled the world,
Right.
but I did it, selling out of the back of my trunk and flying to Indonesia and staying in people's living rooms.
That's an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey, and my kids were part of that journey. How did you do it in Nashville, in a town that is very much aware of the musicians that are here?
Yeah.
They're aware of the people that are percolating, the people that are starting to bubble a little bit. How did you do it where you started getting real traction?
Honestly, like so many things kind of fell into place, and the big thing that happened to me is I had a conversation with my dad, and he was like, I was really bummed, honestly, about the Big Machine thing falling apart because I was so ready for something, and he looked at me and said, "This is when you get to find out how bad you want it." And I said, "I want it so bad. Like I don't know what it is, but like I want to be a musician. This is what I do. This is who I am." And so
let's explore that for a second. What is it?
Right.
You say you don't know what it is, but it drove you.
Right. It is the universal inertia that pushes artists to continue to do what they do, which is make music for people and find joy.
I must do it.
Right. And that's what I have in spades, I feel like, is the must.
Yeah.
And it might be a competitive force. I don't know what it is sometimes. Like it manifests in a lot of different ways.
That sounds funny. I have the must. That could be fragrance too.
Yeah.
Not.
I have the must. Brought to you by Levi Hummon Chanel. But no, that was what it was. And I had a really great dinner right after I left Big Machine with a guy named John Marks who ran Spotify at the time. And he put me on some playlists, and I realized it was getting a lot more streams than the people that were on the label behind me.
Right.
And I was streaming, one of my songs, Stupid, on Spotify was streamed like 22 million times. And I was making revenue. I was streaming more than the artists on the label that I left. Mm-hmm. And I was selling tickets. And I was like, you know what people want to see in Nashville that convinces them no matter what is if a butt is in a seat.
Come on.
And you put a butt in a seat and then people are like, well, it works. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I think that indicator should be front and center. I've told this story before on the podcast, but I was called into a label meeting. Now, we had just left a mall in New Jersey where my sons had complete mayhem. Like, state troopers had to be called in. Every store had to be shut. It was packed with teen girls, and they were going bonkers before Disney. And I go in at Columbia Records, and I have a meeting at a high level, and they said, Kevin, and I was doing some consulting already, so I knew them personally, and it was, I've got some bad news. The indicators are just not there for success for your sons. And I went, what are you talking about? And they said, well, the indicators aren't there. I said, where are you looking? And they said, well, iTunes sales. Because that's our indicator that really is a measurement right now for them of whether or not an artist is working. And I said, did no one report back to you that like the mall was shut down?
Right.
That state troopers had to literally rush in to control the size of the crowd? Yeah, I heard there were, 50, 75 kids there? No! And I think what happens often is they're looking in the wrong direction.
Right.
They're looking at the shiny new object maybe, but they're missing the fact that people care. When people care, they're going to stream it. When people care, they're going to show up. They're going to buy a ticket. They're going to buy a T-shirt. And that fan will come with you and follow you and tell other people about you.
Yeah.
So that was happening for you.
It really is. Yeah, and it was happening. It was happening on a major scale, honestly. And going into 2019, we started to get offers to tour with people like Tim McGraw, Keith Urban, Lady A, Brett Eldridge. We were touring with every single artist in 2019, all the way up until when I had to turn my bus around in 2020 because of the pandemic. And man, it was like such a journey. And I was like, I don't ever need anything. I was like, this is my journey. And
I'm in control.
And I'm in control. And you know what? The thing that a lot of artists don't realize is when you're making money and you're able to provide for yourself and create a business that's sustainable, that it goes so much further than anything you could do by signing a deal that's wrong. And so I kept my nose clean and try to just build it from the ground up. And then, that was only a couple of years ago now.
That's
and
crazy.
But
you know what? You had a jump start on the world shutting down.
Yeah.
And what happened when the world shut down?
Well, when the world shut down, I turned to social media because I had that must in me.
Yeah.
And I had to,
yes.
I also have...
You have the must.
I have a thing called like OCD too, which is I have to constantly be working. And I feel like where I thought I was accelerated so much faster because of social media, because I put the time in and the work in on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all these places. And I built a real online presence and a real fan base. And 2020 and 2021, I went from like 0 followers on TikTok to almost 300,000, which was awesome. I mean, that's not crazy yet. And then I got to work with Walker Hayes on a song called Paying For It. And that all happened.
I love that song. So I was not familiar with your music.
Yeah.
And the guy that's running our entertainment company, Phil Guarini, he sends your stuff to me and says, hey, this could be happening and we could end up working with him. And I was like, well, I haven't heard his name other than I'm aware of his dad.
Right.
And his dad has, written with an artist that I've worked with, but I don't know him and I don't know his music. He sent it over and I went, wow, that song Paying For It, that sounds like a hit. Right. And Phil responded, yeah, it already is. Oh, how did I miss that? Because it was happening
online.
Over here.
Yeah. And it was crazy to be a part of that because when I wrote the song with Walker, we wrote the song together, and I had the title Paying For It, but I had over the very minor chords. It was like,
and Walker, just assuming there are people around the world that don't know who Walker is, they may know a song.
That's a spoiler alert. So I had this minor chords and the title Paying For It, and then Walker just pulled out this like kind of swampy drop D lick, and it was so fun. We both knew the song was incredible, but he had just released an EP which had a song called Fancy Like on it, which is like the Applebee's song.
Oh, we're Fancy Like.
Fancy Like Applebee's on it, dude. And so he had that song on there. It wasn't released yet, but he was releasing it on Friday, and he's like, I can't put this out right now. He's like, we got to find a way how to get this song out. And he was like, let's pitch it to Jake Owen. And so we pitched it to Jake Owen and immediately heard back from Jake, and Jake was like, no. And then I was like, I'll put it out. And he's like, and I'll feature on it. And so we ended up doing that. And it was crazy. And so on Monday, we decided to do that. We got all the paperwork done. On Wednesday, he did the Dance to Fancy Like. And then on Friday, he was on top of the world. And I still had this song with him that I was about to put out. And I called him on Friday, and I was like, Walker, are you sure you want to keep this song? Like, I understand, like, it's your life, and I don't want to, like, interrupt it. And he's like, Levi, use me and abuse me. This song, I believe in it full-heartedly. This is, like, one of my favorite songs. Let's do this. And now we're at, like, 20-something million streams on the song, and it's only been online. That's the only place it's ever existed. And it's just such a blessing.
That's so good. Well, that song is one of the reasons, whether or not it had already become a hit in its lane, its first lane. I'm convinced that song has many lanes.
I'm too.
And if you have not heard, you need to go check it out. This guy's
Paying For It,
and others. That song captured me, and I was like, okay, this. And I didn't know who was on it. I had no idea Walker was on it. I just had a feeling, and when my antennas go up like that, for me, that's one of the driving forces.
It's a good sign because your antennas went up, and so did my dad's.
Good. That's good company.
I will play him songs, and I swear to God, it is 1 out of 100 that he like loves. And Paying For It to this day is like one of his ones. He was like, he grabbed his banjo when we're at his house and listening to music, and he grabs his banjo. I know it's a hit song because he'll be like sitting there just like jamming on his banjo. And I'm like, what are you doing? But
that's so funny.
It's a telltale
Speaking
sign.
of your dad, and we'll get back to the timeline, but I just came to see you guys at a writer's round.
Yeah.
And a writer's round in Nashville is so cool. And I was at one earlier in the week, and this was a week where there's so many here in Nashville. And my wife leaned forward and she went, you really love this. Because I'm a songwriter.
Yeah.
In the depths of my heart, like I'm a songwriter. And I was like, deep in my soul.
Right.
Like this touches me at like the deepest level is the writer's writing. But also, some people thrive in that environment. Some people suffer. We had somebody suffering.
There was a sufferer.
He was suffering, and I mean in every way. Like vocally it may have been an off day, but it was an off day. Guitar wouldn't stay tuned, and your dad, at one point, they're like, "Hey, we need to switch chairs." Your dad like gave up his chair and just kind of stood in the back and waited. And I think my impression of what he did made me just die laughing, because eventually he just goes, and he gets up, he walks over, grabs the guy's guitar, and tunes it for him. And I was like, that is so me. If I were sitting there, it would take all the energy I have in me.
I was dying. I don't know if you saw me, but I was on the end of the stage. I was just like, oh my God, he literally grabbed his guitar.
Just grabbed it. Didn't even, and the guy, to his credit, was like, this is a bucket list moment.
Right.
Marcus Hummon is tuning my guitar, and I thought, I don't know if I put that on. I don't know if that is a bucket list or an embarrassing moment, but I'm glad you are positive about it.
Yeah, I've had many, like when I first started singing and like playing rounds with my dad, there were moments where he would like grab my guitar on stage and tune it for me. And like that was like initial when I was like 16.
There was one moment I noticed. I was like, wow. You know how, like, you see features of your kids. Like, there are things my kids do. I know I do.
Yeah.
And then other times they do things and I don't see it. You and your dad were playing, and then at the same time, there was something going on. Maybe you finished the song, but at the same time, you took your guitar off.
Right.
It was like synchronized swimming.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to be lying.
No, it was like identical.
Yeah.
Literally down to the way the strap flipped around your head. It was a synchronized move. And my kids would be like, don't tell me I'm like my dad. Which we don't want to hear that you feel that. But they feel that. And I thought, it's DNA. Like, that moment is, you've observed it throughout your life, but it was also a moment of like, you can't escape some of that. Like back then,
music has to be DNA. Some part of it is like it might be like raised or whatever, like it is. Some part of me is just built to do music.
Right.
And I feel like the same way with your sons, they have it in them.
There's no question. They were raised around it. But a lot of people can view it. When they do things vocally, I go, I didn't show them how to do that.
Yeah.
They know how to do it instinctively.
And one of my things my dad says is like, there's no harmonies better than blood. That's like,
right.
Christian bands and family bands that kind of started that circuit of touring the nation and doing that. But that's so true.
It's just in there, but watching that moment where, you've watched him take off his guitar, you've taken off your guitar. It was so in sync that it was the same motion. And it was endearing, because it was also, you embrace that in a way that you are very unique. Your dad writes the hymns of country music, like the anthems of country music. I mean, he was writing with one of our artists, and every song he brought back, I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I fangirl over that. And you're different, but that moment struck me as so sweet and so real and so the reason. And you've got Rhett Atkins and Thomas Rhett. You have, Tim McGraw came from talent.
Right.
And he's a specimen because also sports is in his blood as well.
Yeah.
Like, it runs in different courses, but boy, watching you on stage and seeing it, so cool. So back to paying for
it. Goes with you too. When I saw a Instagram story of you in Vegas with your sons on the piano.
Yeah,
that was like that's cool.
Well, that was after when they started. I recently was telling this story. I was in Malaysia, and I did a concert for about 3,000 to 5,000 people, and I had been going over there for a while, building up the worship stuff within the church circles in Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia. That was a real, I love that part of the world. And at the end, there would be a line of people that would want my autograph. And Nick had released this song that we wrote together, a Christmas song. And so I'm there, I'm doing it. There's a line of people, and the first guy that came forward went, "I love your son. Can you bring me back his autograph when you come back?" And I called my wife and went, "My time is over." Like, it's their time. So I really stopped singing. And it was 17, 18 years, and they're like, "Hey, can you come, Dad? Can you come to the rehearsal today?" "Sure. You're singing and playing with us." "Wait, what?" And you almost forget those skills are there. I use them now more as just kind of connecting to the universe or connecting to the Lord. So it was like, well, yeah. And they said, and it's an Elton John song. Oh, crap. No, somebody else should play.
That's like okay, so you choose the hardest song. I haven't sang with you guys in 16 years, and it's a huge, massive thing in Vegas.
And of course, I'm going to play an Elton John song at the piano. That was, just kill me.
One of my favorite memories of my dad was he was a country artist here in Nashville in the 90s too, but he got dropped by like 9 different labels. And a lot of the songs that
makes so much sense because the guy's so just unbelievably talented.
But Blessed Broken Road was actually on one of his records. So was One of These Days, which was a huge hit for Tim McGraw. And a few others were like on his records, but they never put them out to radio.
Wow.
They actually put a song of his called Honky Tonk Mona Lisa was his like radio song, which was...
What a great title.
I know, it's so funny. But he never got invited to do an Opry show in Nashville, and he always wanted to do an Opry show.
Of course.
And so for my Opry debut, I brought my dad out on stage for his Opry debut, and it was like the coolest thing, and that's what reminded me like when I saw that, because it was like the same piano thing, because he came out on the piano, and it was so funny because I was like, play Blessed Broken Road, and he didn't introduce it at all. He just started crying. And so it just sounded like for my Opry debut, I did a really nice cover of Blessed Broken Road
good.
Because he didn't introduce that he was a writer on the song. So everybody in the audience was like, great song. Like,
yeah,
but it
was a great cover.
Right.
And the guy that bled that song is right there.
So I've actually got to play the Opry 22 times now. And every time I try to do like once every 3 or 4 times, bring my dad up. And I'm always like, you have to remind people that you wrote the songs you're singing. Like, you can't just like pull it out.
Yeah, but that's kind of a baller move.
Yeah, it was so fun. But that was like the biggest full circle moment of like, you know, he deserved this, and I was able to present that and do that for him on my end.
Oh, good for you. You know, similar to my kids, you know, we were a part of their journey, and so many people reject that.
Yeah.
And in reverse, so many parents forget it's their moment, not your moment.
Right.
And you guys seem to have that down, and I hope we do. Where, yeah, we have our skills, and we have our talent, and we have our instincts. But it's your time. And the compliment of, yeah, there's a foundation here. I think that speaks to people in a powerful way.
Yeah.
And especially because a lot of people don't have that.
I mean, something went right with whatever was going on in your world. There was like some pot stirring that was stirring in the right direction.
I tell you what, they recently got their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
And I was wearing this, actually. I couldn't talk to anybody because if I even opened my mouth, I started crying.
Yeah.
And being there is a culmination of a journey. I mean, we pounded that pavement. And we used to walk around and be like, oh, right. Someday, wouldn't it be great? And so to have that, and I think that moment for you and your dad it's gonna be so sweet because I feel like you're going to rise and see incredible things. And in that, I actually believe you're going to have a similar moment where your dad's going to be there as you win a Grammy, or you win Song of the Year, or you win the touring award, because as we were saying, butts in seats.
Right.
People care about you, and they're going to show up for your tour. And pretty powerful. So let's go back, paying for it. So talk to me about, okay, it started to take off, and now you're completely independent.
Right.
No publisher, no.
I had a
record
publisher,
company?
so I've always had a publisher since
Great.
I started, and my publisher Reservoir is like the biggest blessing of my entire life.
Love
I signed a
those
new
guys.
publishing deal, and they represent so many cool artists across a landscape that's so different than anything else in Nashville, which I love. And so, shout out to them. But no, I was completely independent at that point on the record side, and what I realized is Walker's TikTok status started melting into my TikTok world.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I went from, kind of like a TikTok fan base to like a real TikTok fan base, and I was realizing how impactful that application can be to your music. And then time goes by, we did a headlining tour, and it was incredible. We did a college headlining tour.
You did a headlining
tour in 2021. Yeah, and for a college thing, it was great. It was kind of like coming
as
out
the world was opening.
as it was opening back up. So it was a little strange, but it was like highlighted by a show in Chicago at Joe's on Weed Street, which is one of my favorite venues, and we sold like 500 tickets there. And it was incredible. And then we came back to Nashville and sold out the Basement East for the last two shows, and it was incredible. And then this past year, I've been working on new music, and I released a song last summer called "Good Riddance," which was like it has been like the craziest moment for me because I just released a song because I loved it. Like I was like, this is just another song to get me somewhere. And so like, what the internal thought was.
And it's got some similar, like foundational elements similar to Paying For It.
Right, and it does. It's fun. It's kind of poking fun at breakups, which is like what. Like I don't like to actually be sad, so I like to make sadness into happiness. And so I released a song on a Wednesday, and it was like doing nothing on this Wednesday. Like it was one of my worst releases I've ever had. And then Thursday goes by, and I hit up one of the managers that was helping me out, and I was like, "What do I do? Like, what do I do?" He's like, "Take that 9-second bridge and clip it into a 9-second like just soundbite." And it said, "Good riddance to the past and all my bad decisions. I ain't ever looking back. I'm just saying good riddance." And I posted that on Friday night, and I said, and I remember these days. I always remember like the days. I don't know what. But I posted that, and I said, "I dare you to send this to your ex." And Saturday morning, I woke up. The video had like 200,000 views, and like 3,000 people had sent it to their ex. And then a week goes by, and like 20,000 people had sent it to their ex. And then I saw it was a trending hashtag on TikTok.
Amazing.
And it just like the song blew up, and now like today it's at 75,000 people have sent it to their ex as of like this morning. And
their ex or
their ex, or it's even gone from like people sending it to addiction, like good riddance to addiction, good riddance to terrible bosses, and people have been burning wedding dresses. It's so crazy. Like the videos on TikTok, and there's even a fan dance that blew up. And
how does it go?
I can't do that on here. It's good riddance to the best, and then I basically do that.
Yeah,
and we don't have to do the whole thing.
It's okay.
All right.
Mostly mature crowd.
We'll do it later for you guys. Check out my TikTok. But no, it's been a blessing. It's like it went completely viral, and it's translated to so much. And now I went from 300,000 followers to almost 800,000 followers, or 750,000. So
good for you, man. That's so. Getting involved with you at this point, there's this concept in radio that that we've discussed, which is the way it works now is less development and more like catching it as it peaks.
Right.
They're looking for that bell curve, and you're on that bell curve.
Yeah.
And we're so thankful to be involved. One, because you're a really good dude.
Thanks. I try to be.
Respect your family and what they've done, your mom and what she's doing to make a difference in people's lives, and your dad. Like, watching all of you in that round sing God Bless the Broken Road, which is one of my like karaoke tracks.
Right. We'll have to get you up there next time.
No. But, yes, I mean, I'd be honored, but it was so moving. And then other people sang after that, it was like, don't ever follow God Bless the Broken Road. That
was our biggest mistake.
That was the biggest mistake. You guys should have been on the end and ended with that, but so incredibly powerful. We're so excited. But that, like, it's on the incline, and it's already begun to, like, show that it's broad.
Right.
And that this is special. And so we're thankful that hey, this moment,
I'm more thankful.
we're going to have so much fun. But those viral moments, I've seen them go really well.
Yeah.
And I've seen people that have viral moments and it disappears. What seems to be happening with you is that viral is connecting to depth.
Yeah.
Viral is connecting to talent. Viral is connecting to really great content. And not just one song or one section of one song, but multiple songs.
Right.
And that's one of the hardest things. There was a marketing guy at one of the major labels that came to me and he was like, look, only 2 to 5% of guys and girls that break out with viral hits on TikTok and other social media,
Yeah.
only 2 to 5% have a second follow-up. It's a one moment, one time thing, and you're already into multiple expressions of that success, and that says you could have a career.
Yeah. I'll say this is like, I explore with virality.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Virality is the word that we've created for it.
Virality. And I've actually, how that's happened multiple times is just an unending ability to create content.
Yeah.
I will post 11 times a day if I have to create a viral moment.
Good for
and I've
you.
done it before, and I've done it multiple times. And songs like For Me, a song like Bottled Up, a song like Paying For It, a song like Good Riddance, and songs that are unreleased that I've just kind of teased audio to. It's like it's happening over and over and over and over again. And the trick to me is just coming up with new concepts for songs. And I don't know if there's any artists that watch this, but one of the best things that I've learned how to do is take a 3-minute song, for instance, and you have a verse, and you have multiple things that happen in that verse, and you have a chorus and a bridge, whatever, and being able to chop that song up into its own songs on these short-form video content, and being able to create 40 songs out of one song. And if you notice, like, one of the biggest songs of last year was like Harry Styles' As It Was.
Yeah.
And the biggest part of that song that you guys remember is like on the TikTok side was that bridge part of it, which was right. And that was not even a chorus or anything.
Yeah.
But that led to the song being recognizable and like huge. And the same thing with Lizzo, like that I don't know, like
Right.
all that stuff was like it was just parts of that was the second verse. And so like that's what I think can happen, and I think it's
my new obsession is the song Ceilings. Like I mean, true shout out. Like I was listening through New Music Friday, and I went back 4 times to that song, and I didn't catch it on TikTok.
Right.
I was like, wow, like I love this and this girl, and I went back to it, and I kept talking about I love this song, and Rachel, who's part of our team, said, "Oh yeah,
it's already been huge.
It is huge. Once again, a hit
Right."
After it's done, and after it's huge, I jump in. But I had no connection to the TikTok trend. It was just listening through New Music Friday, as I try to do every week, and just see what's out there. I went, and by the way, I think I had an artist on it. I went back more for that song and went, wow, this is really catching me in a wonderful way. Like this girl has real writing talent, real chops. But that kind of thing where I had no idea. I probably had subconsciously heard the small section of the song that was over on TikTok when I'm just sitting there like everybody else in the world scrolling. People find it, and you should. If you were talking to these folks, because I tell you what I have seen is the people that are responding. There are quite a few artists, and there are quite a few people that have made their way into some area in the music business, the marketing side, the production side. What would you say to them? Like if you were giving them advice as an independent guy doing it, at least for now, an independent guy doing it who's right now in control of his destiny, what advice would you give them if you could look right in the camera?
Yeah, I would say that honestly, everything starts with a good song. Like you can't do anything without a good song. So if you're in music and you want to start, it has to be the good song. But then from there, it's creating ideas, like literally whiteboarding as many ideas for every single video you can possibly create, and then taking the time to do it. And don't be scared. Don't like think of what people's opinions might be, but just literally do the song. Like I have literally gotten kicked out of bars intentionally, like as a fake viral moment, just to promote a song. I have fake sent my song to my exes just to like have a moment. It's horribly uncomfortable. It's probably awkward. People in the music business might judge you, but just to be able to have that content and create it, people relate to that.
Avoid all liability.
Avoid all
liability. Do not create any situation for yourself that would be uncomfortable. Or
don't hurt yourself. But I'm saying that if you have a thought and you have a dream for a song, or you have if you have just a vision for it, like explore that vision and be willing to go to like just get weird. Like that's what I do.
And take risk.
Yeah.
Frankie does that. And I think part of that is just Frankie. That's how he processes life. Right. But he sees things in a different light, and his view of it.
His speed up, slow down thing was so genius. I'm literally going to copy that, by the way. I'm going to copy that because like that you can use that so many different ways.
The whole releasing the whole packet of like different speeds.
Yeah.
Truly incredible. His label and the marketing team around his project are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They really are phenomenal. Well, one thing that's happening for you now, you mentioned that you just post constantly. Right. You're constantly serving the opportunity. You have had opportunity to see your lives take off.
Right.
Which is incredible. So, as you've done that, tell me what it was like when you first just said, I'm just going to go live.
Yeah, so lives for me was, I realized in like November, December, if I went live right after I posted, that the post would just do better. And so I was like, if I stay live for an hour right after I post, a lot more eyes are going to get on it because people are kind of circling through your content. And then I started to like generate income in December and January and February using this live feature. And now it's one of my biggest tools. I mean, it's incredible because I have sold more tickets on live than I've ever done from just posting something. And the reason that is the audience there is so massive, and people want to be engaged with you, and they want to be directly engaged. And I think that's the biggest and then the next step in the music industry is just this live feature, whether it's on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube Live, everything like that. Like that is where I'm investing my time because I see real opportunity there.
That's awesome. Well, we had lunch with you last week.
Yeah.
And
that was last week.
Or 2 weeks ago. I can't even remember. Life is moving so fast. Last week or the week before. And it was our first, kind of team gathering to just like, let's do this.
Right.
And so you came in after us. We chose the table. Otherwise, I would have said, this guy set up this moment. So we're sitting there. We had our lunch. We chose the table. You came up after us. And the server came over and she said, I just have to admit, I know who you are. To you. And said, I know who you are. I sent a video with your song to my ex.
Can't confirm. I would never do that.
What, did you pay her?
I would never say that. I don't even have that would be actually pretty funny. But no, I did not do that. No, it's been crazy. Like
wait. Don't get off of that. I was like, either this is so viral that this is happening and she was from Ireland, I believe. And
she had an accent.
She had an accent. Narrow it down to a couple places, but she was like flustered.
Right.
I have to admit, I know who you are. And it was almost like an apology, almost like, I hope I did a good job because I know who you are. I sent it to my ex. Good riddance.
Right.
That moment, even if you had said, hey, I recognize you, right, or hey, here's some money, that was such a great moment. But the fact that that's happening randomly, and it wasn't a reflection of you're in a small town,
right,
and everybody knows you did Good Riddance. She has an international background in an international town with international music going out from it, and you had impacted her life and she had that like fandom look and glow about her. It was just another one of those moments where I am so fortunate that these moments happen and I get to be part of witnessing the launching of talent into the world.
Let me be clear that I did not pay this person. But the other thing is, like, it is crazy because it's a couple things is that's kind of God's timing for me, because it is happening in my life, and so often I'll be like out and about by myself, and somebody's like, "Oh my God, like you're that guy that sings that song with Walker or Good Riddance or whatever," and I'm always like, "Where?" It's always when I'm alone. It's always when I'm alone. Like, where is everybody like to see this?
Well, that was pretty well timed.
Yeah, and so it was literally perfect timing. I mean, like so you can experience kind of what's happening in real life. And other side of this is this is happening a lot lately right now with me, and like I can't even go to Poncho and Lefty's, which is like my favorite restaurant anymore, because 3 of the servers there won't leave me alone.
That's so funny.
And so this is all that's very, very new to me. Like, this is within the last like couple months.
Well, I walked into one of the writers' rounds here in town last week, but I had to give my ID, and it was all college age Belmont students from Belmont University. So they saw my driver's license, and it's Kevin Jonas.
Right.
And so they started staring at me. So I walk out and I'm like, "Excuse me, could you direct me to the bathroom?" They're like, "We know who you are."
Right.
And then that felt both encouraged and also a little creepy, because really that's great, but I need to go pee.
Okay, that's actually leads me to my next funny story. Is I was at that Tin Pan South round, and they were like, I was like, "Can I reserve one table or something?" And they're like, "For who?" And I was like, "Kevin Jonas." And then I was like, "Kevin Jonas Sr." And the girl goes, "Haha, you're funny." I was like, "No, actually, he's coming. Like, can you please reserve a table?" And she's like, "Are you sure? Are you shitting me?"
That's the part that blows my mind, because I really do everything I can to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But it's, again, the family dynamic. They followed our family. The cameras were with us as a family. You see from the documentary, we traveled as a family up until that was like their time to be adults without it. So a lot of their fans throughout the world got to know us.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And it is incredible. I had one of those moments once. Nick was in Les Mis and Joe was in La Boheme. We were standing outside of one of the stage doors on Broadway, and I was with this one dad that he thought his kid hung the moon. And my kids were like in multiple, like 5 to 7 Broadway shows and professional theater shows in New York. I don't know how many that kid had, but our family had some like real traction. And he was just bragging, and you don't understand, and like he talked about his life and how much he owned, and I was a pastor. Right. Parking was tough in New York. And as he's bragging and as he's talking, I'm standing there outside the stage door because they didn't let you go in. Parents couldn't stay with their children. They had handlers there for that, union and qualified. So we're standing outside the door, and this girl is waiting to see the stars come out, and she goes, "Kevin?" And I look over, and she said, "You're Kevin Jonas." And I went, "Are you thinking my son?"
Right.
And this was before they had their success, and Kevin was doing some commercials already, and the boys were doing all their stuff. And she said, "I love your worship music. I can't believe I ran into you." Now, that doesn't happen.
Can I say something that it always happens in New York to me? Like, it's the biggest city in the world, but you always run into somebody that's
It's
like...
a small town,
It's
so
crazy.
when it comes to that. And what really was so pleasing about that moment is I had spent 2 to 3 hours trying to just befriend this person. And all they did was brag about their child and their life and what they owned. And it was one of those magical moments where people are coming out of a Broadway show and they're all stars.
Right.
They could sing circles around me every day of the week. But a girl came up as this guy was making me feel small and just elevated me in that moment.
Yeah.
And it was both a, wow, I needed that, and also like, yes, he needed that.
He needed that. Really, yeah, that guy needed it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, full disclosure, like, because I've been around music business my entire life, and especially even Broadway, because my dad writes Broadway shows, that I did not, when I first was, like, going to meet you at Fido's, I was like, I don't know what to expect. I'm, like, so used to, like, the dads, or, like, and, like, not knowing qualification, and when I met you, I was like, it was the biggest, like, deep breath feeling, like, you made me feel so welcome and comfortable, and, like, that, if you don't know him in real life, like, that is straight up so true. You are the most humble and, like, kind person that I've met, and that you can tell from a mile away.
Wow. There have been many times that I've been like, I'm going to be mean and tough, and I'm strong, but I really firmly believe that you can be strong and nice.
Yeah.
You can be successful and nice. You don't have to be an asshole. And there are a lot of those in this business, and that think it's about them and not the talent, and take it to themselves. We're all God's creation, right? Everybody's worthy of that amount of respect, and I think I owe that to my grandfather.
Yeah.
Because he really did say that to me, like, everybody deserves a handshake, everybody deserves respect, to be called sir or ma'am, and treat them with the honor that a God-created being deserves. And so I appreciate that from him. But he also made a statement that we used as like our family motto: he said to me as I left for school, live like you're at the bottom, even if you're at the top.
Unreal.
Thank you, man. We're going to have so much fun.
Let's do it.
And guys, those of you that are listening, if I have anything in my life, it's this antenna for talent, right? And being able to recognize these moments. And I'm telling you, prepare yourself. This guy has the heart, has the passion, has the work ethic. He has the songs. I think something really, really special is about to happen. And if you haven't checked him out, go check him out. But also remember, Legendary the podcast. I'm just loving this opportunity to interview people at different walks and different stations in their career. But go check out the other videos. We have Hall of Fame writers, we have Hall of Fame producers, we have people that started some of the biggest companies and some of the biggest movements in music and been a part of, from Christian music to pop music to country music to band leaders of some of the best moments. Go check out, go through our library. You might find yourself encouraged just as a human, because there's a lot of human stories, but there's also a lot of input for artists, people that want to do this in their life and career. But even if you're in banking, if you're working a 9-to-5 job and you need a little inspiration, man, the people that we're talking to are pursuing the passions of their life. Go check it out. Follow us, share with others, make sure you subscribe where that happens, and come back and see us next time. Legendary the podcast, Kevin Jonas Sr., Levi, thank you, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.